If you are struggling with retroactive jealousy, i.e. unwanted intrusive thoughts about your partner's past, it's very likely that if you've been struggling for an extended amount of time, you're making one of these three critical mistakes. I'm going to tell you about these three mistakes in today's video. My name is Zachary Stockill, and since 2013, I've been helping men and women from all over the world overcome retroactive jealousy and save their relationships. If you'd like more information about my work or you'd like to work with me one-on-one, please visit my website at retroactivejealousy.com. For the people here for the first time, the term retroactive jealousy refers to unwanted intrusive thoughts, often obsessive curiosity, and what I like to call mental movies about your partner's past relationships and or dating/sexual history. And when you're struggling with retroactive jealousy, it's very easy to fall into some really dysfunctional habits, some dysfunctional patterns, and to make a few critical mistakes. The first mistake is probably the simplest, but it's in some ways the worst. And that is simply not executing. In other words, if you watch my videos or you sign up for my online course, or let's say we work together in a coaching situation, and I outline clear directives, clear instructions, clear suggestions, if I give you a lot of actionable stuff to work with and you don't take action on that, you're probably going to keep struggling with retroactive jealousy needlessly. Because any coach, any therapist, any psychologist, anyone working with you to try to help you achieve a result, they can't do the work for you. There needs to be 100% ownership of this problem to truly solve it. And a problem I see a lot, I would say less so with clients of mine, because generally when people sign up to work with me, they're pretty motivated, they're ready, they're excited to get started. They're open to direction, they're open to feedback, they're open to guidance, so that's great. I would say the same with students in my online courses. But for example, a lot of people just watching videos on YouTube, just kind of cruising the blog casually, sometimes they'll hear something that makes sense. I'll give them a directive or I'll provide a suggestion or whatever. They hear it, they think it makes sense. It makes sense rationally to them, and then they don't execute. If it's a journaling exercise or an exercise from CBT or mindfulness or whatever, they hear something that resonates with them, they think it makes sense, but they don't actually execute on it. Now, if you just watch the videos on my channel and you find some benefit in them, like great, that's why I do it. That's why I've been doing this for so many years. That makes me happy. But you're not going to get the best results you could otherwise have if you don't execute. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you hear something that makes sense, it makes sense to your logical brain. If you find a tip or a practice or an exercise or whatever in any part of my work that makes sense, try it, execute, make time for it, make it a priority. You're not going to overcome retroactive jealousy just by watching endless YouTube videos and not actually doing anything new, continuing to fall into the same bad habits, continuing to do all the things that clearly don't work. So when you hear something that makes sense, experiment with it, try it, and if you start to follow a plan, actually execute, because that's only where you're really going to get results. Another mistake that some retroactive jealousy sufferers make is simply not noting progress along the way, right? So they'll start overcoming retroactive jealousy by whichever means. Maybe they're working with a therapist, maybe they're working with me, maybe they're working through my online course, maybe they're even just watching free YouTube videos and they find some things that they find helpful. Great. And then they're going along well, they have a good week maybe, or even a good few days, and then they encounter what I like to call a bump in the road. A bump in the road basically is when you're making progress, you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden you have a tough moment or a tough day, or sometimes even like a tough couple of hours. That's a bump in the road. They happen to the best of us. And as I often tell people who work with me, the way that overcoming retroactive jealousy really works is basically those bumps in the road just get further and further and further and further apart until all of a sudden there's no bumps anymore, and it's more or less just smooth sailing, smooth driving, if we're going to use this metaphor. Basically, those bumps in the road, those bad days, those bad moments are just going to get further and further and further and further apart. But some people, when they're on the road to recovery, they hit a little bump in the road. They have a bad hour, they have a bad morning, for example, and they say, oh my God, I'm back to square one, and yada, yada, yada. Even though maybe they've just had a great week or a great few days after months of hell or whatever. This is generally when people are in the very, very early stages of their recovery. But the principle is basically, note progress. Just because you're having a bad moment or a bad hour, don't let that inspire you to ignore all the progress that you've been making recently, right? It's a bit of a journey to get where you want to go, and there's going to be some bumps along the way. They happen to the best of us, or at least they happened, past tense, to the best of us. So just because you have a discouraging moment or a discouraging morning, or just, you encounter a trigger and it kind of, awakens some of those old feelings, continue to note your progress. And remember that the way this works is you're going to bounce back quicker and quicker and quicker, and those bumps in the road are just going to get further and further apart as long as you're executing, as long as you're following a plan, and as long as you're actually taking the effort to really beat retroactive jealousy for good. And finally, I've saved my favorite for last, but I would say a huge mistake that a lot of retroactive jealousy sufferers make is continuing to do what doesn't work over the long term. What does that mean? I mean, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So for example, this particularly applies to people who are, maybe snooping through their partner's social media, and that's upsetting them, or snooping through their partner's phone or computer sometimes, or pestering their partner with questions about their partner's past, or simply just not taking action, just hoping this problem goes away on its own, not executing, not following any steps, not trying to find a plan, just kind of sitting back and waiting for this problem to fade away. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So don't be one of those people. Don't make that mistake. Because again, we're interested in beating retroactive jealousy for good, and that's going to take a bit of effort. That's going to take a bit of implementation, shall we say, execution on your part. So don't keep doing what doesn't work and hoping things will miraculously change. As I think it was Einstein, that famous quote, right? The definition of insanity is continuing to do what doesn't work over and over and over and over again. You don't want to be one of those people. And if you want to get started right now for free, click the link above my head or click the link in the description of this video to receive my free 4-part video mini course on how to get started beating retroactive jealousy. Many thousands of people have found this free mini course extremely helpful. It's free, unsubscribe anytime. I really think it's going to give you some momentum, and it's going to help you get started beating retroactive jealousy right now. Thanks for watching. If you benefited from this video, if you benefit from this channel, please take a minute to let me know by clicking the like button below. Also leave a comment, tell me what you think. Please be sure you are subscribed to my channel to be notified of new videos moving forward. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.